Hey everybody, welcome back to startthesnowball.com, our podcast with my friend and coworker and co-entrepreneur, the growth guy, Brad Osborne. Brad, welcome today. We're going to be talking about a fun subject, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm excited about this.
So your moniker is actually Nomad Brad, and you're in a different city this week. You want to share where you're at?
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, actually.
All right. And home
Yeah.
base is Michigan.
Yep. Grand Rapids, Michigan. Used to live in Austin, Texas. Lived all over Colorado, California, a couple other countries a little bit as well. Hoping to expand on that this year. So,
Yes, once everything lifts. Ever been to Portugal?
no,
Got to put that on your list, man. I've got friends
really.
over there. Yeah, it is an incredible country. For Nomad Brad.
I'd love to.
All right, Brad. So we're going to talk about something that's really interesting. We come at it from different perspectives. I think you've been a huge skeptic of this, and I've been this ringing the bell of this. But it's a vital subject for entrepreneurs and creators, collaboration. When I think about, what do you think about when I say collaboration?
It's definitely a very loaded term for me. I've had a lot of I don't know. I've become pretty jaded about here's a word that comes up to me when I think of collaboration in a professional sense is politics, right? So I think of politics of I don't know. There's this thing something that really bugged me of going from working in coffee shops. The last team that I worked on, going from coffee shops to working in an office, was I noticed that everybody keeps track of when the other people show up, and that just bugged me so much. I was like, and I was the kind of the manager leader of that team, so I realized it fell upon me to set the standard, because if I didn't show up every day at a certain time, then I noticed that the other people would wait longer and longer, and but I didn't like that role. It didn't make me feel good. So there's lots of loaded stuff with politics there. And anyways, collaboration, I have a lot of fears and worries with working with other people that honestly, until I started working with you, I just thought they were par for the course with doing business. And now I'm starting to see collaboration in a different way.
Now, when you say politics, you're talking about really office politics,
Yes.
office type, team type politics. And I'm with you. I hate that kind of drama, for lack of a better description of it. But we've all been in those places where, it's someone trying to one up somebody else in order to gain position or prestige or something. And I'm an enemy of that kind of politics. That's just destructive. And I've seen teams and organizations led by the top, by the way. I think it's often a reflection of the top brass leadership, whatever, really be just a poisonous culture. So I can totally see that, because I've been there and done that in a wide range of organizations too. And I won't say that my organizations have been free of politics, office top politics either. But, there's a couple levels I think about collaboration. One is straight up partnership, like a legal marriage in a business environment. And the other is collaboration team, where to me, it's like everybody's pushing forward, and we've all been a part of these kind of things. For me, the benefit of a collaboration is I've confessed this many times. I don't want to work alone. I really don't. I didn't set out to do that, by the way. It's just something I discovered about me, but I don't want to work alone. I know you've come from experiences though recently that are hurtful, that are painful. You've got scars, and I've worked with a bunch of people who, same thing. We're working with people right now who have baggage, not their own. I mean, it was something that was done to them. And they're like, there's this whole element. You've heard about this psychological safety within the workplace. Google kind of pioneered that term, to me anyway. And so I'm saying all that, but I'm sure things strike you in that whole conversation is, do I feel safe collaborating with them? Are they going to, you said also, it's like, okay, I notched this, and did you notch the equal? Share some of your thoughts about that and experiences, like where you've been, where it's like, it feels unequal or unfair or even poisonous. Is
Yeah,
that
I guess, like, you're talking about the nomad thing. My personal autonomy and time freedom over my time and my energy is probably the most important thing to me, at least at this stage of my life and most of my adult life. It's just very important for me to have control over my time. And so that's what I felt
hallmark
like.
of an entrepreneur right there?
Yeah, yeah,
I want to figure out where my time goes. I love
yeah,
it. Sorry, I cut you off, but that's a hallmark. That's why you're an entrepreneur.
absolutely. And I just felt like no matter, I don't know, I just felt like other people would try to, you know, take my time and tell me what to do with my time. And that just bugged me in all those different ways. So that's where my guardedness with collaboration can come from, whether it's partnerships or as a part of a team. You know, I've had both where it's just like, as soon as I feel like I no longer have control over my priorities, my time, um, that's when I start to chafe under that. And, you know, especially when it's the only job I've had and like it was really important to me at the time. It was like, well, how can I ignore the owner of the company texting me on weekends and saying, hey, did you get my email, whatever. And that just, it was hard for me because I was young, but also, you know, I here's something interesting that you might want to talk about is like, some people in positions of leadership don't acknowledge the influence that they have over their team or their company, because in that position, I felt like I had to let this person kind of command my time, and it was always difficult for me. I was like, I want to have a weekend. And so that's part of that feeling safe thing. I never really felt safe. I never felt like I got to have my time ever. And if I'd had to fight for my time. And even then it was like a short leash. It's like, okay, well, when are you coming back? And it's like, oh my gosh. So that's one thing. And the other thing, even with partnerships, I feel like even with really clear communication in the beginning, I think there's a natural tendency of human beings to have that like equal feel. I mean, actually, it's not even human beings. I've heard this is in primates as well, right? Like the equal treatment kind of thing. And so we naturally, I think some arrangements for us are very difficult to understand. Like, well, I put in 12 hours, you should put in 12 hours, especially in partnerships. And so you could talk more about that. You have more experience with partnerships, but the few that I've tried, I felt like that inequality kind of thing came up a lot. Like, well, I did X, Y, and Z, and
Yep.
you only
Yep.
did X, and I don't see why, and I know there are other partnership arrangements out there where those aren't the expectations, right? Like sometimes people are like silent partners, or just, hey, I connect you with my network. Anyways.
Particularly with this conversation is in the context of starting your snowball.
Mhm.
When you're just contributing probably mostly time and expertise, some money and effort and stuff like that, it can feel that way. I want to scroll back.
Okay.
You said something. I want to take this moment to say this. That former boss or entrepreneur that did that has is taking advantage of people. At that instance, hopefully they've reformed, but I want to condemn that kind of leadership That's not leadership, by the way. That's management. I don't think
Mm.
you manage people. I think you manage time and resources, but people you lead. Terrible boundaries, took advantage of you and probably likely others. I hope they've reformed or they failed miserably at entrepreneurship, because the expectation when I hire somebody, just like when you are, you're like, this is the offer. It's 8 to 5, whatever the condition, and it's for this amount of money. Not, I'm going to take over your life. That's such a terrible display of, and under the banner of leadership, and it's phony and it's fake and it's poisonous. So I want to condemn it, by the way. Like that style of leadership is gone. Command and control, dictate and abuse. That's gone. People aren't robots and they shouldn't be abused. There should be boundaries, but they should be healthy boundaries. A team member of ours right now in the squad, Brad, was really good because he came from an organization that probably had some boundary type issues. And it's really good to like not email at night. And I thought to myself, I've done that over years and I could be guilty of these things. And I go, okay, I got to be really careful. Now, I have tried to make it clear over and over. I do not expect anybody on our team that's a non-equity partner to have the hours that I do. The people that I've hired over the years, you take your vacation, we're going to fight every chance we can to preserve that time away and space and not to have that. Like I've asked people to work overtime. I've asked people to work on weekends. I try to reserve that for the actual emergencies of a business and be very careful not to text on weekends. So I want to condemn it. I want to say I've probably been guilty of it, different shades of it too, and admit that. But I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's what taking advantage of people. That's what good entrepreneurship about, and certainly what we talk about at Start the Snowball. Okay, I want you to prop up and share some experiences too from the partner side, like particularly when you're starting the snowball, starting your business, getting it up and going. You know my mantra. Every project I'm involved in, I say businesses is really just my projects, but multiple businesses I have going on right now, and every single one of them have partners. And I chose that because that's the way I want it. I don't want to work alone. I'm not a lead singer with just any kind of backup band, or, I want to play good music with people like you, Brad, and other people on our squad, because we play the most brilliant, better music than I could ever do by myself. But you have a thought on that, and then maybe your partnerships when you're starting to snowball and stuff, because you've talked about like one-to-one effort. Is it happening? And your thoughts on that and reflection.
Yeah. Well, first off, I have to say that you really do walk the walk with that kind of stuff and the way that you treat members of your team and your partners. And I've seen that. And I also really feel like I've had other leaders say that they took on that responsibility, but you really do. I mean, you really do, like, center the ultimate responsibilities of your businesses on you, which is as it should be. But it's sometimes I think it's an easy thing for people to say and then they act a different way. But from my experience, you really walk the walk. So that's awesome. Um, and I will say too, like, I think this is why this is a really cool conversation is I still really like a lot about working by myself, right? Like I actually like working by myself for the most part. What I'm kind of new to from working with you is that, okay, I can make this variety of music by myself. What's possible with other people collaborating? But I do have, I like the world in which I wake up and kind of work on my own projects and use the leverage of like software or marketing or social media or something, like leverage tools so that I don't have to hire a team. Like I haven't really wanted to have my own team. That's never really been something that I've aspired to. But now I'm starting to, when I saw the way that you built your team, I don't know for sure if that's what I want to do, but at least it opened a door for me because I saw the way that you were doing it, and I felt it being part of your team. It was like, huh, well, maybe it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. Maybe it doesn't have to be this, office with the politics and stuff. Maybe it can be a small team for me, right? Like, I don't know how big you want to grow your teams, but at least right now it's small. And maybe actually, and this is, I think, what your whole point is, maybe this is actually more fun than me working by myself.
And what I don't want to ever do, or us to ever do, is prescribe one way of doing something, particularly in entrepreneurship. This was I love the way you put that, because it was another way for you to consider and then see if it's yours. I was just talking to Lindsay, my wife, who is a great entrepreneur in her own right, and she saw me build my businesses, was my first lady, and I told her, I said, we did that together. She did so many things behind the scenes that people don't even know about, by the way, over the years. That was just powerful. One, to either help prop me up and make me better, or two, is just things she did behind the scenes that meant so much. But I don't believe, early in my career, I had solo entrepreneurs like you're talking about, like you
Mhm.
seem to right now kind of really gravitate to. And I
Mhm.
totally get it because you get control and it's only you go up or down based on your own effort
Mhm.
and opportunity. Solo entrepreneurs, when I started to build my team, go, why are you building a team? And I was like, hey, I'm glad you're that talented that you can do everything by yourself. Or and second, really more importantly, is want to. I don't want to. I don't want to do sales emails every day. I don't want to do support. I want to
Mm.
get to these other stages. I think it's about, and I love that you're seeing different options and varieties because you get to pick what is best for you. No company is the same. No company should be the same. No entrepreneur is the same because we're all different. One thing you and I talk about a lot is strengths. Like
Yeah.
we've been labeled, and I'll just say it for me, and you can say you too, but is we've been labeled for most of our life as entrepreneurs as odd ducks. Before entrepreneurship came part of like our identity or title or whatever, like we never fit. And you and I've talked so much about that, and I'm like, I've had a job ever since I was a job every year, every 2 years since I was 16, up until I started my full time company in 2008, and we get mislabeled and stuff like that. So I I don't know where I was going. I got off track, Brad.
It's
But
all good.
to each his own, and you're trying to figure out what you want. And would you talk specifically about alignment? Because this has to do with collaboration and how you do it and what works for you. But you have specific desires that I know you've been honing, if you don't mind sharing, about what you want your life to look like.
Yeah, that's another reason I've been super grateful to meet you and get to watch how you do things, because I mean, I've just so many I've always been fascinated by I just love to learn. So I'm fascinated by so many different topics, and I never really found that there was one podcast slash blog post that Tim Ferriss did one time where he said specialization is for insects. And that, other than that, almost every advice I've heard from business and entrepreneurship is to focus on one thing. But Tim Ferriss one time said, specialization is for insects, right? And what he meant was it's okay to be, polymath or whatever. It's okay to be good at lots of different stuff. And so
Uh-huh.
I tried to really run with that, but nobody else really says that until recently. Number one, meeting you, and what you've helped me is to look more at the entrepreneurship, and especially investors. Investors are a type of person, their job is to know stuff about stuff. I was just listening to several interviews with Naval Ravikant.
Hmm.
I think that's his name, and he's just brilliant, like the way that he thinks and stuff. But he learns all the time, and he doesn't limit it to one area. So the way that what I'm starting to feel is I'm starting to feel finally like I've found a place for me. I found a place where someone who likes to learn lots of different stuff, and that's the thing that drives me every day. It's not goals, it's not the money. I like making money, I like setting
Yeah.
goals, I like
Yeah.
achieving things, but it never was the engine that drove me. And I think that's why solopreneurship was hard for me, even though, so I love freedom. And that part that I really liked, right? Like I'd set my own schedule. I'd work on the projects I want to work on. I love that part. And I'm always coming up with creative ideas. But the entrepreneurship world that I was part of was saying, you're a dabbler, and that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
You're shiny object syndrome. And then I'd feel guilt and shame, because it's like, well, one week I want to work on my Magic the Gathering website, and the
Exactly.
next week I want to work on my, marketing YouTube channel or whatever. And everybody's saying that's how you fail. That's how you are a bad entrepreneur. You bad entrepreneur. You're bad at it.
Or bad professional, like in career, when you get people that so-called job hop. I could have been labeled as a hopper. But you can't figure out what you're doing. You're trying to do all these things, you got too many interests, all that stuff. I think there's a point where it becomes, you almost shoot yourself in the foot to do too much, like not landing on anything. But I think there's a medium in here that's definitely way past what you felt and I've felt over my career, is being shamed for wanting to be a generalist, not an insect. in this
Yeah.
sense. And by the way, nothing against specialists. There's people that
No.
do that, and that's great. But the people that we're talking to are the people that go, "This is me." Like there's people I'd known over the years. My aunt was one of them, and she had a job. She was always changing jobs. And as I become an entrepreneur later in my life, I thought, I wonder if she's really an entrepreneur, you know? And there's a great book that I think we've talked about called privately called Range. And it's really about the rise of the generalist. And it talks about the difference between a Tiger Woods who specialized in golf as a prodigy to the tennis great, and I forget his name, Roger Federer, who was a generalist as a sports athlete. But all that to say is, like, this is such a special career, I guess I could say, almost for me, because it fits me. It changes every day. I get to do this, but oftentimes we've been bashed. By the way, Start the Snowball, that our community here, that's you. If that fits you, some of these things, this is your safe haven. This is, maybe you just haven't found the career called entrepreneurship where you can start something, build it, do your own thing, have the freedom and control that you're talking about too. And I want to do so. So that's a whole other conversation, right? And that's going to be a theme of everything you hear from Start the Snowball from Brad and I, is like, hey, this is your home. This is a place where you belong. If you fit some of these, they can be taken to extremities. And I told you, I got to be careful. Like I'd start 60 projects if I could,
Right.
but I can't, you know?
Yeah. And that's a skill we have to learn too, is
Saying no.
saying no, and like applying your efforts in a place that it yields the most in happiness, in, money and rewards. But I think it's more holistic than just which business idea is going to make me the most money, or which business idea should I do because I'm the best at. It's this kind of balance that you have to find yourself, no matter who you are. You have to find your balance. Maybe you love writing sales emails every day, and that's what makes, I know there's some copywriters that their whole business is just, they write emails every day and then they sell you books filled with their emails that they've written every day. Ben Settle is a great example of this. He has a $97 a month newsletter he's been selling for many years, and it's just more of me, talking through your email. And his fans are raving fans. They love it. And he's built a home for email copywriters by just writing email copy to email copywriters about how to write email copy. It's just amazing. But that's a business where it's like, he knows exactly what he likes to do and what he doesn't like to do. He doesn't want to, run ads or build a social media brand or whatever. It's just exactly the parts of business that he likes, that provide the lifestyle he likes. Mm-hmm. And he attracts the people that are interested in that. So I think we'll talk a lot about that with this community, is how do you, it's okay to be who you are, and you will attract other people who are interested in exactly who you are and what you're putting out in the world.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk more defined about collaboration with partners. Okay. I want to set the stage. I want to get your thoughts on this. So I'm with you. If I can start something and I'm not having to collaborate, I'd rather get it going. But there becomes a time, and I told you I've discovered I like partners, and I'm still learning about this, by the way. It's not fleshed out totally at all. But if I can just get something going and it's not dependent on anybody else, that's awesome. But did there become a time for you in your solopreneur days that you go, I've maxed out what I can do to grow business, and I need, it could be partner or it could be team, and go, there's things like, then the collaboration thing comes up, and it's typically either one is I find a partner, an equity partner, or second, a collaborator, team, meaning you're hiring employees, kind of thing. But can you turn back your clock and think about those things and give me some commentary on solo? Love this, but did you hit a roadblock? Did you hit an obstacle? And you're like, I don't know what to do next, because I have a thought on this too. It's probably my one compelling reason to have a partner. One of my big compelling reasons to have a partner.
I honestly don't think I've hit that yet.
You have the skills enough to get something, a snowball rolling.
Yeah. The thing that happens for me is I get bored as soon as the snowball becomes, all you have to do is keep doing the same thing every day for a year. That's when I stop doing it. So I've always wanted partners, somebody to step in, and if I can find the person who's like, and maybe, we can talk about like Dan Sullivan type stuff here, but
Oh yeah.
finding the person who picks up where you start it, right? And then and I've never found that. I've tried with some of my friends, and it's like, if I could find somebody who, okay, I got the thing started, I know where it's gonna go, but I just can't sit there every day and like copy and paste, like a new article or make a new YouTube video or whatever. Like that's not the part that's fun for me. And so that's where my experience is. So I guess I get to a point, I've hoped that partners would be that for me, but I think the partners that I've chosen were other creative types that also did the vision, right? So we both have a lot of vision and both have a lot of plans and strategies. And then neither person is the one who wants to just like plug in and do it every day. So that's been my experience. I would love for your perspective on that.
How much time do we have, man? I have so many questions,
Yeah.
to pose for us. So here is one compelling reason for me,
Okay.
to have a partner. And I want to see if you're able to source this within your friendship group, your business context, things like that, because it's been tougher for me. Is entrepreneurship, I've said over and over and over, is one of the toughest jobs you can ever have, yet one of the most rewarding you can ever have. And I say it's a job because, some days it feels like a job, but it's also one of the most isolating jobs on earth to me, because my parents, and I love my parents, worked for other people for the bulk of their career. Nothing against that. That was what they chose and wanted. My two grandfathers didn't. They were entrepreneurs, but most of my friendship circle, especially early on, didn't understand that I would wake up at 2 a.m. with like heartburn going, how the heck am I going to make payroll today? So it's such an isolating job. It could be a isolating job. And there's the disclaimer I give people: when you're starting your snowball and you're starting your business and you're becoming an entrepreneur, it's going to feel like the loneliest job you've ever had. One of the most, that goes on one of the most compelling reasons I have is it feels like an echo chamber, and I want someone on the journey with me. Doesn't have to always be equity partner, by the way. Matt, my COO at iThemes, was my sidekick. He rode shotgun with me. Like, he was my bouncer offer. That's one of the most compelling reasons for me about partner, is because it's like, at some point I have doubts and I'm like, I don't know where to go. We talked about it in our team. Like, somebody will ask a question and I'll say, okay, it's usually you, Brad. You'll say, hey, so what's our next step? And I'll go, hey, Brad, what's our next step?
Yeah.
Because it does all feel on your shoulders. So that's one of my own personal compelling reasons to have a partner. But what are your thoughts about that? Like, did your projects feel like echo chambers?
Honestly, I think you really struck a chord with me on that one, because I always wanted the people that I was inviting to be a partner, I wanted them to be excited about it. And as soon as it became like a job to them or whatever that they weren't getting paid for, it was like, they're not excited anymore. And I still was, but anyways, what you're saying just really is singing to me right now, that part of what you get from collaboration is just someone else who's interested in the same thing that you're excited about, right? Like you said, somebody on the journey with you. That's really where our collaboration and friendship has developed, is I cared about the stuff you cared about, like,
yep.
I got this young entrepreneur who just popped up onto my team randomly. I have somebody to talk about entrepreneurship with. I feel like, and same for me, whenever we talk, it's like we get excited. And I try to share this stuff with other people in my life, and nobody gets it.
They're like, cool, Brad, can we talk about the soccer game on,
exactly
something else? They don't get it.
I'm like,
and it's okay.
Cory told me about this cool book today. And it's like, I'm so excited. And yeah, so I think that's something to really, and I have experienced that. The last partnership that I tried was with my best friend, awesome guy, very talented entrepreneur, brilliant guy. And we tried to partner up, and we were also roommates. So that added like there's a whole nother conversation later about that. But anyways, utmost respect for him. It was a bad time for me. I wasn't very good at communicating, but we tried. And that's the thing that I did experience having a collaborator was every day we'd wake up and we would talk about business. We would talk about our emerging ideas for this business. And that was exciting. It was like, it gave me something to be excited about every day. And to have this brilliant person who was offering such incredible ideas into, and I hope he felt the same way about me, at least when we were collaborating. It was really exciting, and it just compelled me to, I guess work is a word, just to do stuff, to produce things, to create.
The energy you have, like you and I get this energy off of each other too, is it just like it stirs us up, and it's always good to have that too. Thank you for sharing that. I was thinking about when I hired my first set of people in 2008. So it's about 5 or 6 months into the business. I had a contractor when I started, but I was full-time, but 5 or 6 months into the business, hired my first team member. And I remember something, maybe, this is all rose-colored glasses, but going like, I hold all the hats. I wear all the hats in my business, but eventually I want to take this hat off, put it somewhere else. My first collaborators, and I'll say specifically for team members, was the stuff that was vital to getting the work done, but very hot on its heels, Brad, was the crap I hate to do and cannot wait to get it off. Those two metrics in my first year and ever since have been the keys. Stuff that gets the magic done, the product out the door, the cash in that people that make the widgets. Second, that maybe is past my expertise, but second is I want to take these hats off as fast as I can, these certain ones. So I did, although I think my experience with support was vitally important to understanding our customers and set the tone for the next 10 years. I couldn't wait to take off those hats. Did that come up for you? And when you're thinking about, really, I think about yours too, and I want to segue at some point to this, is expectations. Let's just talk about expectations. But does that rile anything up in you?
Absolutely. That's really resonating for me hard. I know, I'm sure anybody listening to this would know this. Like, I have ideas that I know if somebody would do the part that I don't like, which is often it's repetition,
Yeah.
If someone would just do that, like money would start coming out and we'd both have this cool business. And it's so crazy because everyone's like, boredom is like the number one killer of entrepreneurs. And I am definitely living proof of that. I've had so many things. I start snowballs and they start to work, like I go through what most people would consider the hardest part, which is figuring it out, studying for hours and hours, watching hundreds of hours of YouTube videos to learn how to do this thing, and finally dialing in, building the system and putting everything in place. And then I get bored and it's just like, oh, I see the next step. The next step is I have to do the same thing every day for a year. Oh, I'm out.
And then you check out and you're like, then this shiny new object comes up because you're too bored. I'm with you 100%. That is where, now one strength I'll take, what I've seen is you're such a good teacher of process. You're almost adverse. You're almost like allergic to the routine, but it skews as a really good teacher of processes and trainer of people. What I found, Brad, over my career as an entrepreneur since, let's say 2006, when I was doing freelance, I'll say that's my start, I guess, is that what I hate, the things I loathe to do, there are other people in the world that have absolutely cherished them and think this makes my day. You and I are driven a little differently. This is where collaboration, specifically hiring team members, comes in. I do not like to do the finances. I do not like to do bookkeeping. I don't like to do invoicing. But I discovered there's this whole creature called a bookkeeper, an accountant, and a CPA that love that. I just want to work with numbers and spreadsheets all day. And so, you know what I did? I was glad to collaborate under our little discussion here and hire that person out. So that's what I had found is there. And what I see for you as an entrepreneur is doing that. You are so good at starting the snowball. You have this added superpower, which is called teacher. So you can start the snowball. For you, I see, if I just peering in my Cory's crystal ball for Brad, unsolicited, but I go, then that's a style to maybe prop up as a thesis for you is, what if I start it and I can find somebody to take over when it feels monotonous? I'll tell you what, there's not just the fear. Entrepreneurs have, all of us have fear of failure. Fear of success is the flip side to it, though. If this succeeds, I have to do those widgets every day for the rest of my life. And you and I are adverse to that. It's like oil in the water. But maybe you could find a collaborator in those instances that goes, that's my jam. I want that.
I'm getting excited just hearing you talk about that. So maybe, you could help me in that area, and I can share my experiences with this community, this podcast, as I learn more about how to do that. Like right now, I'm like, that sounds amazing. That sounds life-changing. I just don't know how to do that. Right. Then because I've always maybe this is a limiting belief, but I've always thought if I had money, then I could do that. Right. And so I don't know. And maybe it's as simple as that. If you have capital, then the solution is easy. Just hire people out.
Now there's another option too, which I think you want to do in particular, which is flip it, sell your snowball, get the snowball up, it's starting to run, and maybe you sell it. So there's a bunch of options, but can I give you some encouragement live on our Snowball Content podcast?
Absolutely.
Brad, I believe you and so many other people have everything you need. Everything you need to do that. Now, the equation is, to me, do I want to spend the time, effort, and emotion of doing it? Like, does that, so I said option 1 and 2, what just got your heart beating and what goes, it might've been option 1 for you is hiring somebody to take it over. Okay, well, I can't do my Nomad Brad if I don't, but now I'd also say you still have this superpower called teaching, but maybe that's your unique model of entrepreneurship. But did 1 or 2 resonate with you right off the bat?
Definitely the teaching. I have done that. I've designed a couple of courses, and that feels very natural to me. I like YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, and most of it is just tutorials. It's teaching. As I come across skills, tools, etc., I get excited about it, and I'll spend a month learning about Pinterest, and then I make a YouTube video about Pinterest, and it's like a really good one.
You're so good at that, by the way. I tell Brad, anything that pops up, I will gladly pay for it if you'll give me the too long didn't read version.
Yeah. And
so
thank you. I think maybe that would be the place I would like to lean into more, and maybe just, maybe it's as simple as just doing it. But
my friend, Brian Castle too, there's another option too, is a productized service. And my friend, Brian Castle, CASEL, has a course called Productized. And he's done a couple of productized type business that are cool, that can kind of be almost free running. But I want to segue into something, because you did this with me when we first started. I think there's part of this collaboration, a huge tip I would give everybody, because I practice it, you've seen it practice too, is learn more about who you are. And for me, sometimes I'm just oblivious to the obvious. And so I have leaned on tools, and I call them discovery tools. They're not tests. I don't think there's no passing grade about who you are and your personality at all, but strengths tools. And I think one that I had you do was called Strengths Finders.
Yes.
Strengths Finder is the first one. Okay. I know from Brad, he's a learner. Guess what my top strength is? Learner. That's why we love talking. I can throw any amount of book over to Brad, and he's going to read it in like 2 days and get me here's what I love that. And and I gravitate toward learners too, even on my team. That's the first tool I'd highly suggest for anybody listening, starting to learn about yourself. Then you find there's weaknesses, but we know what our weaknesses are, right? but let's lean in on our strengths and find people that are compatible, collaborators, equity partner, team member, contractor, whoever it is, that can help us with our weaknesses and gaps. The second tool I'll tell you, and we'll put this in the show notes, is Kolbe, KOLBE.com. One of the most amazing discovery tools, strengths discovery tools, because we know how you know how you operate. I think I had you do this too, Brad, and we talked about it. You and I are both we initiate any problem solving thing with what's called quick start. Most entrepreneurs I've met are quick starts. It's innovate. It's like the MacGyver. If you remember you don't remember the old show, but MacGyver was the old show. Problem would happen, he'd wire some stuff together and somehow save the day. That's who quick starts are, by and large, high quick starts. I would highly recommend those two tools. They have helped me incredibly because I understand other people are different, and to find the compatible, like I've got these strengths, you've got these strengths, and they match because my weaknesses are your strengths and your strengths are my weak, or whatever, vice versa. You've done those too, right? I know you've done Kolbe.
Yes. And that was a big revelation to me about what you're up to in your collaboration style. That was amazing because I was like, oh, now you don't have to spend 6 months learning everything about me. You can have a pretty good idea of what my strengths and weaknesses are going to be, and then you can you've helped me change my role working with your team, being part of your team. As you learned more, you were like, how about you move slightly over here? Oh, wow, you're loving that even more. And it's better for all of us. That's great. So I love that your use of those tools was really eye-opening for me in a lot of ways. For myself too, I saw my strengths laid out. And it was the first time, Cory, that some of those things that, like you said earlier, I've felt guilt and shame about, these systems were like, no, that's your strength. You're amazing at learning. Learn more. One thing they said on one of those things, which I don't think means, every single instance in life, but for the most part, they said, wait till the last minute. What? That's like something I've been guilty and shameful about for my whole life. Like, oh, I procrastinate, wait till the last minute. Again, I think there's appropriate places in life where that's not good advice.
Yeah.
But you and I just start these podcasts and both of us are comfortable with that. That makes other people squirm, very uncomfortable, but I'm comfortable with it because something about the way that we're built, that actually works. It actually drives our creative energy and it doesn't stress us out the rest of the day like it does everyone else. So anyways, those tests are amazing. I would definitely second, just to discover things that you think are weaknesses of yourself that are actually superpowers.
Yes. And it gives you the language to talk to other people about it. Kolbe and specifically will say, this is why you wait till the end. This is why Brad and I wait till the end, because we're quick starts. But we produce often our best work on deadline. And some of you in the Snowball community are going to be like, that's me. You're hitting my jam. Go to Kolbe, KOLBE.com. Go to Strengths Finder. Strengths Finder will give you your top 5 strengths out of like 32. And, it's just like, when this comes to collaboration, I'll tell you, you don't want everyone just like you, even though you and I have very similar themes and stuff. It was oh, okay, wait, because our other team member who leads one of our projects is a high quick start too. But the three of us will get on a call and we can rev each other up with ideas all day long.
Yeah.
But a warning flag with me is like, we can rev each other up, but hey, team, at the end, we got to go figure out what we're going to do with that. Knowing that, and we have another team member who's opposite, who is what's called hide and follow through. That's step by step. She is so good. She will take the wake of our carnage and organize it and formulate it and put it in. And that's why we have her. We need her because she is our balance to these. Okay, well, if we just quick start everything, you'll have 100 new projects, and no follow through doesn't mean you ever follow through. It just means you have a step-by-step way to organize information and steps. But she's the one coming behind our carnage and trying to say, okay, you got the carnage, you discovered things. Step 1 is here, step 2 is here, step 3 is here. And I just believe when you know yourself more, you can find better collaborators to help you with the gaps, the weaknesses. Now, it doesn't work in every instance, like you're saying too.
I love, actually, that makes me think of your band analogy. Like, if you have a band that's 5 guitar players, it's going to sound terrible, right? I mean, maybe there's some random band out there that sounds great, but for the most part, it's going to be quite boring music, right?
Yeah.
Or it's going to be complicated, or it'll be everybody's playing over each other. But when you take a guitar and then you add a bass and then you add a singer, and to be fair, you can be a band with just a singer. You can be a band with just a guitar player. You can be
Yep.
just a singer and a guitar. But as you add these different complementary collaborations, the music gets richer and deeper, and it just becomes a different thing. So I like that analogy.
It grows in a way that you never expect, but it's just amazing. That's what I like to be, is I like to be surprised and delighted, because when you tap into human potential, like when you figure out what is that unique magic that you do and your gift and your genius and in whatever you're doing, and then help build a supporting cast, a brand around it, that they play the best music. They've hit their unique magic and genius, and you're all playing together. I think you create something together, and this is the collaboration that goes well beyond. I heard an African proverb years ago, and it became a mantra for us. All my teams and everything I'll do, from personal life to business life, is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I knew if I depended only on me, I had my potential was as tall as I am. But if I could tap into Brad and different team members and we could play music together, it's infinite where we can go together, And that's my approach to collaboration, though. And it's not for everybody. Somebody goes, I just want to be a lead singer and that's it. It's the Dave Matthews Band. That's probably not a good example, but I just want to sing and it doesn't matter who's playing music back here. Cool. Do that. Do that. Find your special place and variety and ingredients. I just make way better music with other people. Just like today, I couldn't have done this on my own. We had to do this. We're collaborating, on something that's going to be cool, and we're drawing out of each other, and we're making good music together, I think.
I love that. I think that's a good thought we can wrap up on. And I think, ultimately what we're saying is not that you have to be like either of us or both of us, but that you always look for your unique way of playing this game, because you're right. Some people, one of my best friends is probably one of the most effective and efficient human beings, but also entrepreneurs I've ever met. And he runs a huge business completely by himself because he's so good at leveraging systems. And he's such a systems thinker. And, he would never want to do a podcast with someone else. Like, he knows exactly what his strengths are and he leans into them 100%. And he just builds out these incredible systems. He does his thing. And then, money and impact and community and all that stuff comes forward. But he doesn't do all the stuff you think you have to do in the modern age. He doesn't do social media. He doesn't, he's got a couple, like one ad channel. Anyways, that's just a different way to play music. That's the solo guitarist. And that's cool too. So if that's you, then we want to help you bring out those strengths. And if you like collaborating with people, then there's a lot of untapped potential and infinite potential really to grow into as well. So I've really liked our conversation today, Cory.
You bet. Well, hey, me too, Brad. Everybody listening, be sure you're subscribed to startthe.snowball.com. Be sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast, and also our YouTube channel. But give us a review. We'd love to hear back from you about startthe.snowball.com, and share it with somebody else that you're like, gosh, this would be cool. Potential collaborators, potential partners. Somebody just want to start a side gig. A lot of stuff we're talking about is you can start your snowball while you have a full-time gig. And by the way, I kind of advise that because have the certainty of having health insurance and things like that, and build your snowball where it gets critical mass. Then you have opportunities and options, which is always critical. Brad, my snowball partner, thanks for the talk today.
Yeah, thank you, Cory. It was awesome.